Next on cue, they're watching your house, and they want to know how much it's worth. Now, if you own a home in Allegheny County, your property is being reassessed. Now, will it mean you're paying more taxes? Well, find out next.
And you asked, we're answering. It's time to once again rip open the On Cue mailbag and respond to viewer mail.
Plus, live music from members of the Steel City Harmonizers. Stay with us. On Cue starts right now.
You look marvelous.
Hello, I'm Chris Moore.
And I'm Stacy Smith, and welcome to On Cue.
Tonight, we'll answer your viewer mail and feature a live performance by members of the Steel City Harmonizers.
First, though, we begin tonight's program with a look at the plan to reassess every home in Allegheny County. Carol?
Well, Stacy, you may have noticed some strange people outside your house recently, measuring your property line and jotting down some notes. Now, some may have asked to come inside, and if you live in Allegheny County, you can't miss them and you can't escape them. I know, I tried. Every single property in Allegheny County is being reassessed for tax purposes. Now, that's 600,000 properties. Well, On Cue correspondent Michael Bartley looked into what's being done and why. What'd you find, Michael?
You can't get away from it, Carol.
That's right.
The county-wide reassessment is a major undertaking ordered by a judge to bring some fairness in assessments and property taxes. Allegheny County hasn't had a full-blown county-wide property inspection in more than 20 years. Some say it has to be done because the current assessment system is unfair and screwed up. We begin in Franklin Park, where we followed a property inspector a while back when snow was still on the ground.
It doesn't matter if you have a big house, a not so big house. Doesn't matter where you live in Allegheny County. The assessor is looking at your property.
Okay, we're in the right spot. All right.
Matt Lemley is an assessor with Sabre Systems, the company being paid $24 million to do the full county reassessment. On this day, Lemley is doing follow-up work in Franklin Park. He records information, measures property lines,
Corner of the house to this end was 43 feet.
calculates property values to see what homeowners might pay in taxes. And that makes property inspectors like Lemley not too popular.
There was a guy who pulled a gun on a collector. I mean, people don't know who we are.
Even a horse turned on Lemley one day as he inspected a barn. The horse wanted to eat his papers.
You know, every time I jerked it away from him, he didn't like it. So he got mad, and eventually, when he couldn't get my paper, he took a hunk out of my leg.
And there were the naked sunbathers who wouldn't budge as Lemley measured the rear of their house.
He was old and he was ugly, and I said, please cover up. And he says, you're at my house, you do what I want. I says, I'm measuring it and I'm leaving.
But despite the strange encounters, the full county reassessment is serious business and long overdue. Homeowners will find out by next January what their house is worth and whether they'll pay more or less in taxes. Lemley measured the Sweeney house, which has a new addition. Karen Sweeney expects to pay more.
I'm sure we will have to pay more taxes. But, I mean, I think the taxes are high in Allegheny County, and we take issue with that. We moved here from New Jersey, and they're as high, if not higher, than where we lived in New Jersey. So, and they're one of the highest states in the country. So it is an issue with us, certainly.
If you think it's too high, do you suppose you'll appeal?
If it's too high, we will appeal.
Appeal? They wouldn't be alone. Last year, the Board of Property Assessment downtown heard 9,000 appeals.
I mean, we presently have a third world assessment system.
Michael Suley is the vice chairman of the Board of Property Assessment. Even he admits Allegheny County's assessment system has been screwed up for years. Property owners complain because, for the most part, there is no uniformity, no rhyme or reason to how tax bills are divvied out. With no full county reassessment for 20 years, there's been only sporadic reassessments without physical inspections. That means many homes haven't been physically inspected in more than 20 years, and some homeowners are getting off easy with taxes. Suley says the assessment system has been riddled with politics and blames unnamed politicians for influencing which neighborhoods should be reassessed.
The perception, and some of it is true, the perception is that everyone is not paying their fair share, that there is favoritism, that some people pay next to nothing in property taxes. Two people living next door to each other, owning the same home, one person pays $5,000 a year, the next door neighbor pays $2,500. The unfairness of the system.
They have every right to be upset about it.
Yes, they do, absolutely. And again, it's a result of decades of political abuse. This didn't happen overnight.
A judge ordered the current full county reassessment, so no property owner or neighborhood is immune from the reassessment.
Yep, there's a new addition on the back, all right.
The court order has some muster. I'll tell you, we'll get there.
And when the full reassessment is finished and homeowners get their new assessment next year, many property tax bills will go up. Complaints will skyrocket, and so will appeals. And even the credibility of the appeals process is in question.
That's a good case.
This is the law office of John Silvestri, who filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of several homeowners who claimed they were denied due process when they appealed their assessment.
What I'm saying is there's information that should be given to the homeowner under principles of due process and fairness that's not being distributed, and they don't know to ask for it. I know better because I've studied the law, and when I ask for it, I'm told no.
Information that may be able to help in their assessment and how much taxes they pay.
That's correct.
Prove it in court is the simple reaction from the assessment office. As for your tax bill, Michael Suley says now is the time to warn you big changes may be coming due to the full reassessment. But eventually he predicts fairness will finally creep into the system.
With this reassessment, there will be a lot of pain to get to the uniformity, and that is our goal, is to reach uniformity in assessments. But once we get beyond that, we in Allegheny County will have a model assessment system.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house.
So time will tell. Allegheny County Executive Jim Roddy is proposing an overhaul of the assessment system. He wants the assessment process to be separated from the assessment appeals process so that homeowners who appeal assessments aren't appealing to the same person that did the assessment on their house. Once again, next January is when Allegheny County property owners will see the results of the full reassessment. Their reactions should be very interesting, to say the least.
It's always interesting to see grown-ups weep.
We'll see what happens.
So how did we get to this point? What happened? Well, for part of the story, let's go back over to Stacy and Chris.
Well, joining us now are George Donatello. He is the operations director of Sabre Systems. That is the company that Michael mentioned, which is doing the reassessments, and local attorney Ira Weiss, who can help explain who thinks this across-the-board assessment is a good thing. Gentlemen, we welcome you to On Cue.
First, let's answer the question, how did it get so screwed up? As Michael says, Mr. Weiss, has this really been political? Have certain politicians said hands off some neighborhoods?
I certainly don't know that as a fact, but it's clear if you review assessment records that there is lots of non-uniformity, lots of things that are difficult to explain, and more importantly, compared to other counties, until the time Sabre was engaged, there was absolutely no database in this county. So if you went to an assessment card to see basic physical facts about a property, they just weren't there.
Mr. Donatello, have you found a hodgepodge, a sort of crazy quilt of assessments as you've been doing this with Sabre Systems?
Absolutely. It's I've been in the business 30 years and worked in 16 states, and I don't think I've ever seen a system quite like this one.
So it's a big job to reform it, but a lot of people are going to be hit pretty heavily. What do you think is going to be a result of this?
There are going to be a lot of changes. We like to think in the business that a third of the taxes are going to go up, a third are going to stay about the same, and a third, believe it or not, are going to go down.
Really?
Yes.
But people are crying. They're concerned about getting a big hit.
Well, I mean, I'm concerned too, because there are going to be some massive hits.
What's this going to mean for school districts, Mr. Weiss, and for the county's bottom line, the budget too?
Well, there's a law that was passed 2 years ago that really was in effect in most other counties in Pennsylvania that basically says that you cannot generate more than 5% more revenue as a result of reassessments only. So what I envision happening next year, once these assessments are set prior to January, that local governments will have to adjust their millage if they experience large assessment increases. Now, the other piece of this is that the board has said they're going to go to a 100% ratio next year, which means your assessment and your market value will be the same. Clearly, there's going to be a big jump in assessments, and local jurisdictions are going to have to reduce their millage, so they're not getting more than 105% of what they got the year before as a result of the reassessment.
No windfalls.